I'm going to be speaking about something that just recently took place. On Tuesday, January 23rd at 9:02 a.m., I received a call from retired FBI agent Ted Otto. At first, he made small talk and then inquired how things were going with me. And I explained to him a few things that had transpired over the last few months. Naturally, he acted shocked. And let me just say, in my particular situation, the FBI is well aware of what's happening in my life in real time. At some point during the conversation, he even offered his help, among other things. But then he mentioned why it was that he initially called me, and my antennas went up. He asked if I remembered Tom Regina, which I did. I had mentioned him not by name in a previous video, and I'll add a link to that in the description. He's an agent out of New Jersey that's working the case involving an assault of the housewife of New Jersey, Dina Manzo's husband, who at the time of the assault was her fiance. So as I stated, as soon as he mentioned Agent Regina, the pieces quickly fell into place. But before I get into that, former Agent Otto also mentioned that Tommy Manzo, the defendant, was now looking to take his case to trial, and that the government believes the reason for his decision is that he thinks I'm not going to be called as a witness. While I was listening to this, I wanted to say, and his assumption is on the money, but I learned it's better to listen with the FBI rather than say too much. He then added that Agent Regina was wondering if I would come in and talk with them, and them being the FBI and the U.S. attorneys who are working the case. I'd like to mention that about 2 years ago, I explained to Agent Regina that under no certain terms will I be testifying. And quickly, let me add, for those of you who's been paying attention, do not listen to clowns who make statements like this. They'll never use him, meaning me, again as a witness. Because this is only proof that people speak out of the wrong orifice in their tiny little boy bodies. The government is begging me to testify. As for Agent Regina, who I'll refer to as a ballless wonder, he didn't even have the decency to act like a man and call me himself. Instead, he chose the typical FBI backdoor move, but to no surprise. So essentially, what the FBI is trying to do is take advantage of the unfortunate set of circumstances that I've recently found myself in. And no, I'm not in any trouble. And they figured they'd use it against me and to their advantage, and that I'd jump at whatever they were offering. A second call again from former Agent Otto took place the same day at 10:48 a.m. During that call, I explained my reasoning for no longer wanting to testify. And after listening, he said, "I'll tell Tom it's a hard no," which was exactly what it was, a very hard no. And by the way, since that last conversation, I have not heard from former Agent Otto or anything about his offer to help like he initially mentioned, which is another example of how the FBI will try to manipulate you if they can. But what's funny is, when I heard the offer, I thought to myself, when he gets to the real reason why he called, and it's something I don't agree with, that offer will be gone like the wind. And I was correct. I'm obviously not going to share what took place over the last few months, but if I did, it would depict just how low and dirty our government is. By rights, they should have approached me and offered their help with no strings attached. But that's not how they operate. And this is by no means an attempt at gaining pity from anyone. I'm a big boy and have to deal with my predicament. I just look at it as either stay quiet and don't offer any help, but don't try to use my predicament as a tool to manipulate me. There are numerous guys in a life, or associated to it, who are in some way secretly in bed with the FBI, and they're paying you for your information. I say to you, be very, very careful when dealing with these people. They couldn't care less if you live or die. As for any members who are contemplating cooperating, please listen to me carefully. Don't do it. The FBI is trained to manipulate you. At first, they'll throw money at you and paint the rosiest pictures, but it's all a game. They'll play the part of acting like they're your best friends, and they'll continue these charades until they squeeze every last drop out of you. And as soon as you come to the realization that you've had enough, they'll disappear in the blink of an eye. Do you know the only people that's made out the best when dealing with the FBI and the government is the Arabs in Afghanistan or wherever that gave information on terrorists? In some cases, they were handed duffel bags full of money along with visas to the United States. and lived happily ever after. The FBI, if you let them, will try to bullshit you. But the truth is, the only thing they really care about is making cases, nothing else. In regard to the Mansell case, they tried every tactic they learned while at Quantico to convince me to be a witness. Nonetheless, I seen through all that bullshit, and as I mentioned, my decision was made a long time ago. There's so much more in the ways the FBI tried to manipulate me. However, for now, I'll save those stories for a much larger platform, one to be sold at a bookstore near you. There's been certain people who cooperated and managed to milk the government for large sums of money. There's even one guy I know of who complained that his fingertips were cold because of the place he was living and got the FBI to move him to a warmer area, only to have to move him again and again because of his poor judgments. Another agent, who I'll mention at a later date, had told me a story. And the reason he told me this particular story is as follows. They had me in a hotel, and inside the hotel was a bistro. And I've eaten at this place plenty of times. So when the time came for the FBI to pay the bill, there was no added charges from the bistro. Anytime I ate there, I paid with my own money rather than charge it to the room. They probably expected me to do that because guys in that situation will definitely charge it to the room. So the agent said how thankful they were that I didn't take advantage of that. And he told me a story that he had taken a guy who was cooperating to go shopping. I guess they were in a Walmart. And the guy went around filling up a cart. And when they got to the register, the agent gave the cashier a credit card. While the cashier was ringing up the items, she turned and said, "Do you want to take the gift cards now, or should I put them in the bag?" The agent then looked at the guy as if to say, "What's up with the gift cards?" And he shrugged and said, "I'm a little short on cash and I could use the money." Obviously, they put the gift cards back. But this is who they're used to dealing with. Get over artist. So I'm sure when it comes to me, they labeled me as the biggest sucker they ever dealt with. My mother always reminds me that there's a very thin line between the government and the mob. And in a lot of ways, they're alike. My mother was against my having any dealings with them. And anyone who knows my mother knows she's a product of East New York, where the FBI is the enemy. Foresight is a wonderful ability to possess. Unfortunately for me, most of my education is the direct result of hindsight. And speaking of foresight, I honestly don't know how the Mansell case will end. I guess it all depends on what they have on him, and more crucially, whether a jury believes it or not. I have heard of some of the things going against him, and in my opinion, they seem somewhat damaging. But it all comes down to a jury. You really never know which direction they're headed. Sometimes a verdict is very surprising, but most of the times they're not, and are predictable. In lieu of Patreon, let me quickly mention the Super Thanks icon, found in the 3-dot dropdown, put there for anyone that wants to show appreciation for videos like this. It's not easy to beat the government. So with that said, I'll end with this message to the Mansell defense team. If the government underhandedly attempts to add my name to their witness list, I'll say this: you'll have a better shot of seeing Santa Claus get up on that witness stand than me.